Today, former player and president of the LA Galaxy, Klein, joins me for an important conversation about one of the pillars of faith, and that is trust. All right here in Carson, California at the Stub Hub Center. Klein, thank you so much. President of the LA Galaxy, former player as well. So you spent 13 seasons,
I did.
Correct?
Yeah.
As a player.
13 seasons as a player.
Wow.
Yeah, Kansas City, Salt Lake, and then I finished my career here in LA.
Well, it's prepared you for what you're doing
it really
by
has.
far. And the topic today is trust.
Perfect.
And it's something that I think is so crucial in our walk with the Lord. I love Psalm 9:10. Those who know your name and trust in you, for you, Lord, never forsake those who seek you. So powerful. And I feel like we forget this. We forget that he uses the most difficult things to flex our trust muscles and flex our faith. Can you speak to a specific moment where you had to just step out in faith, a moment that you had to completely trust in God? You saw nothing that would lead you to believe that everything's going to be okay, but you had to trust him.
Of course.
And how he rewarded that.
The interesting thing about walking with the Lord is he sometimes uses us when we're in the valley to reveal himself, and I wish he'd possibly use it more when we're on the mountaintop. But
yes, sir.
you know, I've had times when I've played that I can remember. I'll never forget. I was a young player. I was 25 years old, and I had a major knee injury. I had a very young family, and I can remember driving to the hospital feeling complete peace. And my career, the body that we use to earn a living was in doubt at that point. And I just felt that the only thing I had was to turn to my faith in the Lord and to rest fully in that, and the peace that he gave me from that, and how he's used that from that time even until now to be able to speak to different athletes that go through injuries, and the trust and faith that it takes to walk through that. Right. His provision in seeking him first was very clear to me. And there's been other times just in walking with him when I feel the most connected. And it usually is where there's nowhere else to turn.
Absolutely, and I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's why I brought up finances. He makes us, or he puts us in a posture to trust him in so many areas, but often it's in a place where we are deficient.
Sure.
And so for me, it was finances, and I think even for you, you kind of need your knee. You know,
Sure.
you kind of need your knee to play. You know, and you were at a point where that was a pivotal moment, and so I just love that he uses those moments to put us in a posture of trusting him.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's such a great story, and I also think it's important to note, when we are amidst believing that miracles exist, that his impossibilities can just, literally envelop us. Yeah. I just think that, again, trust comes back to being able to recognize when we are in difficulty that we are actually surrounded. We are in this atmosphere where we are in the initial stage of a miracle. Yeah. And I think we often forget that when we're in the valley.
No question.
We don't trust that God has this vantage point that we don't have.
Yeah.
So Psalm 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all of your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. That verse was the very first Bible verse I ever memorized, and it is just the pillar for my faith.
Yeah.
For you, how has your own understanding blocked you from truly trusting fully in God?
I think of my role now as president of a sports organization, and we've had 2 difficult years, and to have to think through that, and it's interesting you bring up Proverbs 3. The only thing I've prayed for in this off season is wisdom, and to be able to lean into him, because there's been mornings when I've woken up where I didn't know where to turn, and if you read and understand what prayer is like, he wants us to rest in him, and it really is his wisdom, whether it is what's laid out in Proverbs, or when David didn't know where to turn in the Psalms.
Yes.
In thinking through that and turning fully into him. He often gives us the words that we need and the decisions that we need to make, because we are not enough. And we need to, he's calling us to be 100% with him, and he will surround us. Right. He will take away the fear and give us that understanding, because he does care what happens in our life.
Do you find that hard to navigate in the position that you're in? It's such a prominent position in this the sport, but even just in the industry. I mean, again, the president of a soccer club is no small task. So is that hard to navigate when you're in meetings, when when you're being tested, if you will?
Sure. Sometimes I think it's easier to navigate when the magnitude of it professionally, I mean, it is so great that there's nowhere else to turn but him. I have a very clear understanding since I've been in this role that I'm not, God didn't place me here because I'm any smarter or I know more about soccer or I can do, he placed me here for his glory. And so to do things, we've had success where we've won championships and I've learned through those, and certainly I believe that I've learned more through the difficult times.
Valleys, we always learn more through the valleys.
Yeah, and going through those and having to trust fully in him because we're laid bare in front of him and there's nowhere else to turn. So there are times when it is difficult, but what I am seeing as I go throughout my walk is I can't see another way. And so I can't see another way to approach my profession, to approach my family, to approach the relationships, other than viewing them through his lens.
So good. Would you see trust and faith being one of the same, or how would you define those differently?
I certainly look at my faith in Jesus is the reason why I trust. You know, we are called to be fully in him, and the trust thing, it's a choice to wake up every single day and know that he is going to be there. He never changes.
Amen.
My circumstances change, my emotions change, but he is constant. And so to wake up every single day and to have that understanding and to put my trust in him every day, I really don't see any other way of approaching this, whether it be my career, my family, things like that. But it certainly is a choice because when doubt creeps in, when fear creeps in, there are questions that arise because we are human. So the daily walk and being in prayer and being in his word is something that is just a fresh reminder of the great things that he has for us.
Sure. Well, and I feel like this notion of us trying to figure things out, that's something that not only
I'm great at that.
Me too. Me too. I'm constantly, Christian, non-Christian, believer, atheist, whoever you are, we tend to overthink. We tend to just try to figure it out, and there's just, God's way is infinite. And I just wanted to, I guess, remind everybody and just kind of get your opinion about this, that often we pray at our own level. We pray from our own perspective, and we forget that God's ways are just infinite, and that he sees things from a completely different vantage point. And I love Psalm 37, commit everything you do to the Lord, trust him, and he will take care of you. I've seen this happen in my own life. It's just completely broken down barriers. What advice would you give to someone that is struggling with letting go and letting God, as they say, someone that's really trying to seek a deeper level of trust?
I mean, God calls us to pray big. He wants amazing things for our life, and to have, I don't want to say small prayers because those are there too, but I'm learning again in my walk to pray big, and to ask God for big things. And you know, it's in his time whether he delivers. I mean, I can look back on a number of situations and see, thankfully, my prayers weren't answered. And also have that, but to really, you know, give God the desires of our heart. And so that's something that I'm, again, as a daily walk, and something that I'm trying to do.
Oh, that's so good. I love the unanswered prayers. Garth Brooks said it best.
Of course.
You know, so often we think, oh, this is my path, this is what I want to work out, and he just truly knows best. But of course, the evil one uses discouragement, he uses lies. One of my favorite sayings is, Lord, let your love be louder than the lies, because there's just something to be said about the fact that Satan just uses this to just give us this mental paralysis. And I try to fight that every day, and that's something that's just so difficult. Do you find, you know, that prayer is most useful for that? How do you, what's your tactic? What advice would you give for your tactic to really battle that mental paralysis?
I mean, there's certainly being in the Word and understanding His Word, but for me, it comes back to prayer. I mean, it's pray without ceasing, and you come back to that. And again, I'm learning to be in constant conversation with Jesus, and to, whether it's in a meeting, and it doesn't have to be a lot. It doesn't have to be me in a quiet place sitting down. I'm trying to understand how to live that out, and when I'm seeing difficult meeting, difficult conversation,
Sure.
when I'm seeing that person, when I'm seeing that situation through God's lens, I don't want to say it centers me, but it gives me the understanding
Peace.
that the peace of God is with me. And to have that through any situation, high or low, is something that I would want for everyone.
Yes, the peace that surpasses understanding.
It really does.
I love that. How do I follow that up?
Yeah.
Except to now ask you, I've been asking every guest about their third act. So
Yeah.
the show is called The Third Act because it's about that moment, that point of no return, that push to victory over a goal. It's not giving into fear, really, like you said, praying ceaselessly, but really leaning into a moment.
Sure.
And I would love for you to share a moment in your life that was truly defining, a moment that you could have just enveloped you in fear, but you just pushed through.
Yeah, I mean, I've had, you look at a couple moments in your life, and you talk about monuments in your life, and when I committed my life to Jesus through meeting my wife in college, I talked about my knee injury as a professional, and I think even in the midst of where I am now professionally, and in the midst of transition in our club and going through that, and when I look at that, those are points of no return, and having to mark them and go back and look at the way that God either showed me a different path, how he changed my thought and how I had to submit to him fully. I think I can look at different stages of my life and saying, that was my third act when I was a young man. That was the third act of my playing career. And possibly this could be the third act of my professional career.
Sure. What a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Well, and you were doing so many things that people behind the scenes that people don't even know about. I mean, you talking about your faith and just walking and being a man of God, you don't even know who's seeing that. A fan could be seeing it, a player could be seeing it. It's just, thank you so much for using your position, your expertise, your knowledge, just everything that you are for God's glory.
Well,
I mean, it's just such an incredible example.
I believe very strongly that we are, again, I said before, we are all placed here to glorify Him. And I'm certainly, again, not placed here for myself, but to glorify Him in any way that I can, because this club will exist beyond me, but
you're leaving your footprint.
In heaven. Sure.
Yes. Oh, you're leaving your footprint, and especially in this city. It's just so refreshing to meet people that are just truly willing to talk about the Lord. And I just couldn't thank you enough for sharing your story. I have to ask you, actually, what is more difficult, being a president of this amazing club or playing at an elite level for that many years?
I mean, they're two very different things. I mean, I spent my entire life being an athlete and playing and being involved actually in the game, and then transitioning outside. It's a completely different skill set, different set of challenges, but I still feel like I'm involved in the game. I've thought a number of times that I felt that I played to prepare me for this job, which is an interesting thing. Most people step out of the game and they look back and wish that they were still playing.
And for your fans, we are going to play Rapid Fire 15. Brace yourselves, everyone. Here we go. First one, Easter or Christmas?
Christmas.
Tom Hanks or Tom Brady?
Tom Hanks.
Olympics or World Cup?
World Cup.
Sushi or steak?
Steak.
Inspirational song or inspirational movie?
Inspirational song.
Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Lucky penny or rabbit's tail? Rabbit's
neither.
foot.
Can I say neither?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
I'm not very superstitious.
Perfect. I absolutely love it. Well, when you hear about my penny story, that might change your point of view. ESPN or History Channel?
ESPN.
Psalms or Proverbs?
Proverbs.
Netflix or YouTube?
Ooh, Netflix.
Premier League or MLS?
MLS.
That was a test. Yes, I had to. Ferrari or motorcycle?
Ferrari.
Sweet treat or salty snack?
Oh, sweet treat.
All right, so you're eating a taco. Do you eat it left to right or right to left?
I'm eating a taco. I ate it left to right.
So does everyone. That's the common answer. Now, the drum roll answer, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Handyman or hire a man?
Oh, hire a man, no question.
That's our Rapid Fire 15 with Chris Klein. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Such
a pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you for giving us your facility here at Stub Hub.
Always welcome.
See you at the next Galaxy game.
Thank you.
Thank you. A penny, often treated as one of the most insignificant pieces of currency. We throw them down on the ground, into fountains. We get them pressed into little medallions at state fairs. Many people see them as completely worthless. There's a story of a wealthy businessman who's out to lunch with a colleague. They leave the restaurant, walk out to valet. The businessman sees a penny sitting on the ground. He smiles, bends over, picks it up, puts it in his pocket. The colleague looks at him confused, but makes no mention of the observation he just made. Later on, the colleague joins him in the office and says, hey, there's something that's really been bothering me. You're one of the wealthiest businessmen I know. Why would you bend down and pick a dirty old penny off the ground and keep it? What could that possibly be worth to you? The businessman says, well, have you ever looked to see what it says on the penny? He replies, no. In God we trust. The Lord puts a penny in my path every time he asks me to step out in faith and trust him. As for me, the Lord communicates with me in this distinctive way. He leaves a penny in my path in the most beautiful ways to remind me to unflinchingly trust in him. And that's my hope for you, that the Lord will place pennies in your path in an unexpected way and give you a moment to lean into, to trust him completely in all things unseen. And hey, just for fun, look at the date on the penny and remind yourself of something you're grateful for that happened that year. Something to think about for what it's worth.
Take time to meet each moment with joy, laughter, and most of all, love. And remind yourself in every circumstance, perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created.
With over 10,000 titles, it would be impossible for us to show you everything on PureFlix.com. But let's give it a shot.